Here's the hard truth. People don't necessarily want you to succeed. And the bigger your dream, the more people that are going to come out of the woodwork to try to stop you. As Oliver Emberton said, the only way to avoid pissing people off is to do nothing important. But if you're striving for something important, if you're trying to make real change, if there's something in your life that you are absolutely hell-bent to make happen, you have got to understand that you're going to be fighting against something. People are going to be pushing back against you, and it is going to be your ability to hold true to that vision that's going to determine whether you can pull it off. And as Victor Hugo said, you have enemies? Good. It means you stood up for something at some point in your life. And that's what people miss. They somehow want to get through this unscathed. They somehow hope that with this grand change that they want to make, that people just fall in love, that they see your vision, that they fall in line behind you, and that they want you to lead them. That's not the way that people work. Having a vision already puts you in an incredibly rare group of people. Being able to see something that other people can't see, that is the role of a visionary, is literally to interpret the world that other people don't even know exists and bring it into fruition and get people excited about it, get them to fall in line. But understand, when you build an army, you will have an opposing force. But as Mark Twain said, keep away from those who try to belittle your ambitions. Small people always do that, but the really great ones, they make you believe that you too can become great. And that's the kind of person that you want to surround yourself with. You want to surround yourself with people that believe in you. You want to surround yourself with people that even when they can't see it, they can see you. Even when they don't understand what you're trying to build, they believe in you and they're willing to get in line and they're willing to meet that opposing force. And when you're able to galvanize people around your idea and push it forward and paint for them the world not as it is, but as it could be, that's when you can make change. But you can't be afraid to piss people off. You have to know that they're coming for you, and you have to be willing to fight. Because if you're not willing to fight, you might as well sit down now. So if you're going to be one of the few that stands up, you've got to stand up prepared for war.
What is going on, guys? And look at the the next up video. Anyway, welcome back to my channel. Luke here again. And I just thought I'd play that video at the start because, I don't know, it gets me jacked up. It's a good video made by Dread Bongo. Make sure you give it a like and share it around. Always gets you fired up. Anyway, today I want to specifically talk to you guys about the origins of Quant and where it came from. Because a lot of people seem to think that it was born out of the ICO or the token generation event during 2018. And while that is true for the process of getting the product rolled out and clients onboarded, the idea and the company itself was actually born in 2015. And so today, that's kind of what I'm going to talk about. And so for those of you guys who don't know, and I don't want to be going too deep into every single topic here, so if you're looking up, oh, you guys probably can't see it, but I've got like a gazillion tabs lined up here that I want to kind of discuss today, but I'm just going to touch on them briefly, and I don't want to go too deep into each person, each role. I just want to kind of you guys to get the broad picture of what's going on here and why it matters. Anyway, if you didn't know, and this is public information, you can check it on the websites, but the current Quant Network company was actually founded in 2015 and it was called Remitt. And you'll also see that the logo looks quite familiar to the old Quant logo. You can see that the founders, Gilbert and Sassoon Gregorian, right? So you obviously know of Gilbert, and it's very interesting. You can see the title here. Remitt are creating a new blockchain ISO standard and real-time platform. Remitt are building technology to revolutionize banking by creating new finance applications and connecting legacy systems to their new platform. Right, so you can see Gilbert already had this idea and the company was already in the moves in 2015. So if we move along, who is Sassoon Gregorian? He's actually quite big in government affairs, public policy and things like that, but he's also part of Salesforce, and he helped Gilbert push this new idea through the standards, mainly Australia standards and the ISO, and helped kind of get the business going at the start. Not too sure what happened with him, why he's dropped off, but he's decided to go back into his own corporate career. wish him all the well. But more importantly, I wanted to go onto the Remitt website, and you can see in 2016, you can see this is when they were posted, 2016. Sassoon is already writing articles here about blockchain and why it's important. So you can see that, and look, they mentioned things like Swift and, people already back in 2016, people are already estimating, remittance and settlement layers is a big deal for blockchain. So why is this important? For me, it kind of signifies that this vision isn't just something that was brought about via ICO. I feel like the token raise kind of helped these guys get their idea, rolling, and I think that's kind of cool. Anyway, we'll move on. Here's another one: world's first standard for blockchain. So this kind of talks about Remitt's involvement in the ISO standard. Now, I've made videos before about the ISO standards and what they are. Feel free to check that out. If you don't know, ISO TC-307 is the blockchain and DLT systems standard that Gilbert helped to shape and form, and we'll look into that now. And so Remitt is leading industry efforts to push for a world-first ISO standard for blockchains. We are supporting Standards Australia to lead this initiative. There we go. Governments enable interoperability and open up the blockchain for its potential uses, right? So this is back in 2016. This is when the ISO standard was kind of forming. And the great thing about Australia, I'm Australian, we're actually very switched on about this. I don't know if you guys know about ASX, but this is back in 2016, but we obviously know that ASX is restructuring their entire settlement clearing system, the chess system on blockchain, and they're already talking about it down here at the bottom here, which is exciting. Anyway, moving on. Here we go again. Green light for blockchain standards, September 26. Remitt has welcomed the recent announcement that Australia will lead the international development of standards governing blockchain distributed technology. The idea, incepted and developed by Remitt earlier this year, received approval as ISO, right? So these guys saw a problem, and I'll touch on where this kind of came from in the next thing, but Gilbert and Sassoon, they saw a problem, and they saw that there was no confluence in blockchain networks. They were being siloed again. And what does siloed mean? It means they're being built in separation. There's no seamless integration. There's no seamless communication. And they knew that was going to be a problem. And this is years ago, guys. So you're thinking this is before the whole, ICO phase, the whole 2017 hype mania. This is well before their time. They're already playing this out and seeing the need for interoperability in the future, right? So I thought we'd go through this day because this is a great one. This is 21st of October, and it kind of touches on, this is Gilbert's presentation, on where he came from and why he thought it was important. So I think we'll flick through. Background on Standards Australia, proposal 2015. Right, so here's his history, introduced to blockchain and Bitcoin in 2009, mainstream, starts getting talked about a bit more, Ethereum. 2015, started Remitt. All right, here's the important part. Wasn't happy that things are progressing in silos. We just talked about this. Came up with the concept and architecture of interoperability and governance. And this is also important. Gilbert's, he's got a big passion for health, and he was a health CISO in New South Wales. And he started talking about identifying use cases for New South Wales health for electronic records and data sharing. And that was kind of a, I guess you could say, a click moment for him, I suppose. I'm speculating on what he's thinking, but I guess that's kind of where he saw a need there. He saw the data in, especially in health industry, it was very separated and very siloed, and he thought, this can help. Anyway, 2016, drafting the idea and proposal with Standards Australia, push to get people behind it. See, it looks like people, too early, stifle innovation. It already seems like there was pushback from the start. This is 2016. This is a while ago. ISO approval, little smiley face. Now this is kind of important. Moved back to London, finances fintech capital of the world to get behind this. So you can already see from back here that Remitt was primarily going to be focused in that settlement kind of area because, Remit is kind of, I'm assuming it's short for remittance. So that's great. We'll move along, see what's next. Blockchain BSI, that's actually a standards initiative, I think it's UK based, that Gilbert is also a part of. He's also on the national committee for that. 2017, Remitt kind of transformed into Quant Overledger. research and product development, and of course the token offering that most of you guys are probably familiar with. The need for blockchain standards. Here we go. We talk about side networks, things like that. More of his background. Blah, blah, blah. Here we go. Proposed ISO standard. There are currently a number of different blockchain protocols in use. The technical committee will consider key protocol differentiating elements, including permission models, private, public, etc. So this kind of outlines, I mean, if you guys want me to, I'll link this, but you can probably Google search it. It goes through everything, the scope of the ISO standard, etc. There's a great photo, April 2017. Awesome. Here's what it's kind of going to look like. Right. Awesome. Now, this is very exciting too. This is part of the proposal that was made by Standards Australia to the ISO committee for the ISO TC-307. Now, if we scroll down, there's this diagram, and I won't go through all the jargon and stuff because you guys might understand, but this image here, you guys might be able to understand clearly. So you see Remitt multi-gateway, right? Like, what is this? Well, let's have a little look here. So what's this down here? You got DLTs, you got other, Ethereum, Bitcoin, Stellar, and Ripple, right? These are connectors. We're pretty familiar with this. Plugged into the engine. Remitt private blockchain, just database. So I don't know if you know much, but Gilbert's mentioned that they're also looking at building an in-house blockchain for data storage. Anyway, basically in this red box here, it's what you guys know as Overledger. And so in 2015 or 2016, when this was proposed, they had already mapped out Overledger as the basis for the standard, right? They knew it could fulfill the standard needs. And so I think this is very important moving forward because it shows the vision of Gilbert. He wants to build a standard. I mean, you can't get any bigger than that. You can't get bigger than that. I mean, being a standard is literally being the standard. I'm not sure how ISO progresses now with, specific business requirements and things like that, but I think this is just a great image. Anyway, here we are, ISO TC-307. Mr. Craig Dunn, I was going to talk about him a little bit separately. He's also got, so he was the chairperson until end of this year, sorry. He's got great links again to ASX, as we talked about with their clearing settlement. You go down here, you've got interoperability, and there's our boy, Mr. Gilbert Verdian. So good to see that he's working on that. Makes sense, obviously. Also wanted to look out, or point out to you guys that the big boys are involved in this, and organizations in the liaison. You got the European Commission, EEA. A lot of these big boys, they look like crazy names, but if you Google search them, you'll see what they're talking about. You know, you got SWIFT, United Nations, OECD. Now, also, you'll probably be thinking, okay, what does this all mean for Quant? Well, recently, and this is pretty cool, in this PDF is actually from the Dublin committee, but you'll probably recognize this graph. It's actually in the Quant white paper, and it was referenced in the Dublin ISO TC-307 presentation. So I think this is pretty cool. It not only means that they're aware of the potential solutions and stuff, but it obviously means that Gilbert's putting his product and putting Overledger, into the mix, which I think is good. Moving on, I wanted to talk about Heather Krieger, right? And now she works for IBM, but her current role actually is to oversee the development of the ISO standard. And so she's overseeing the reference architecture. And so basically IBM's kind of hand on the wheel in this. And you guys will know how IBM's got big connections to Hyperledger, Linux Foundation, things like that. Big boy IBM. Just thought that was of interesting note. What do we got here? More importantly, I wanted to talk about ISO 20022, which is the Universal Financial Industry Message Scheme, right? And it talks about payments, securities, trade services, FX, and cards. Now, it's important because this next slide is from Swift, and they talk about the crossovers between 20022 and ISO TC-307. And again, this is some great diagrams for you guys to see, but I can't go through everything in too much detail for obvious reasons. I just want to point out that it's very encouraging to see, international bodies like SWIFT and OECD, things like that, talking about DLT and ISO TC-307 in such a way. And so we can kind of see how TO2, there was one thing I really wanted to show you guys. We'll scroll down here. Here we go. So we've got technical standards, business standards, right? So here's 20022, this is what we were just talking about. That's kind of like how the payment structures like formed and things like that. And over here, you've got TC-307, technical standards, kind of like outlining what's what. And it's, I mean, this is pretty cool. I mean, Gilbert was at the, spearheading this back in the day with Remit, and now it's being referenced by Swift. And of course, you see here, Linux Foundation, Hyperledger, we just talked about IBM. And again, this is the ECE, so we just meant this is, Economic Commission for Europe, pushed by United Nations. They also mentioned 307 in here somewhere as well. Here we go. Blockchain. So it's, here we go. UNECE has also been very active in the ISO T37 on blockchain. We've provided a good deal of information example as well, technical input on the ongoing work, which is excellent stuff. So again, it just shows the importance of the standards in regulatory environments and how people are working together. And it's very exciting to see collaboration at such lengths. I mean, truly, I mean, this is blockchain. This is what we're all here for. It's what we're passionate about. And all these big guys getting behind it. Another one, roadmap for blockchain standards. This is by Standards Australia, and this kind of covers the journey to get to ISO TC-307. You'll notice Gilbert's mentioned, and so is Mr. Craig Dunn, which we also mentioned. I'll just scroll down to Gilbert's part because it's interesting. Again, it's actually some interesting use case information in here as well. Here's Gilbert, chair of the British Standards Institute, which is what we talked about before, BSI. Provided background on the use of the technology in the UK and globally. Here we go. Mr. Verdi indicated that standards would in no way replace regulation, but rather support it. He suggested that blockchain represented an opportunity for government by reducing the cost of operations, providing greater transparency of transactions between government agencies and citizens, and enabling broader financial inclusion of people currently on the fringes of the financial system. The presentation described the valuable role of standards in building market confidence by addressing blockchain issues relating to governance, privacy, interoperability, and authentication. So it's cool to see that this is all a few years ago, and I mean a lot before really any of us knew about Quant, any of us knew about Remit, and this is kind of just as Gilbert was getting his feet and his legs ready to take this to market. And so that's where the next thing comes in, and it's called UCL. And what UCL is it's a big university branch within the UK. I'm sure you guys know what it is. Go up here. I think it's called the University College of London. I should know that. I believe that's what it is. I've always just said UCL. Anyway, this was July 2017, and I think this is pretty important. The UCL CBT announces strategic partnerships with R3. We know who that is. That's Quarter, United Nations, State Street, Elias Labs, Fidelity, Blockchain Connector, Remit, boom, 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 NXT, IOTA, Edgeverve, Infosys, ATS, and Graybase, and deliver the next generation of blockchain solutions. Together, the organizations will co-innovate around DLT technologies, and the partnership will integrate UCL CBT's expertise with the company's projects with financial institutions and regulators while providing access to publicly funded research. Right. So what does this mean? Basically, UCL helped Gilbert and his team develop Overledger in a research sense and helped, kind of seed it, right? And so obviously, UCL is one of, I think it's actually the world's largest blockchain research institution, but they've got some pretty big boys in there. But notably, someone called Paolo Tasco, and I'm sure most of you guys know him. He's an advisor for Quant. He was actually the co-founder. He's done a lot of work for us. He's the executive director of UCL Center for Blockchain Technologies. All right. And we look down here, he's got a very impressive list. And here we go, Quant Network. He was co-founder and chief strategist, during the startup phase. And now he's backed off to advisor, pushing paper, helping us get through. He's also very involved in a lot of academic work. I mean, if you go through his stuff with UCL, more importantly, he's just launched a retail blockchain consortium, and Gilbert's mentioned that they'll be looking to get involved here as well. And just for those of you who think, oh, he's not really doing much for Quant, well, he was really helping Gilbert spearhead getting patents and research and product designed in 2017 through UCL. And we can see that here in this tweet quite recently, 27th of June. It's official. Our patent application is published. We spent all of 2017 with Paolo Tesco and UCL to get this milestone. Awesome stuff. Now, just wanted to briefly touch on a couple of other things. Nothing too exciting, but I thought I would just mention a lot of the early characters, who they are and what they mean. And so here you can see a lot of the advisors. I'll go through some of them. We've got Chris Abdul's back. He works with Techstars, and Techstars has kind of backed via Barclays, as you can see here, and of course, I'm clearly supportive friends of Barclays. Tariq Khan, also a close relationship to Chris as well. Also, I believe he's part of Techstars as well. Yes. Adrian Basso, Executive Product Manager at BBC Data Lab. Oh, looks like I can't see his full profile. Gaetano Mondelli. I believe this guy is actually also authored the white paper, along with Paolo, Gilbert, and I think it was Colin as well. And so what does he do? He's also big in UCL. And we also see Imperial. I see Imperial popping up a lot, involved with Quant. I believe there's quite some good ties to Imperial, just another business strategy and consulting. You got Benowit. I don't know how to say his name. I don't want to get in trouble. Basically, he's big in the European Commission, right? And he helped Gilbert and the team push their notion through regulation in quite a big way. And I'll show you what I mean. That's Giles. Sorry. This is 13th of September 2017. Now you've got Paolo. You've got, look at this is Volker. We'll talk about that in a second. You've got Gilbert. Look, I spelled his name wrong. Gilbert from Remitt. You've got, here's our guy, Benoit Abilis, is the guy we we're just talking about. So you've got 1, 2, 3. I'll talk about him in a second. 4 people all on Team Quant at the at this event. And this is the person I was going to talk about. Volker Squirk. Squirk? I don't know. Apologies. Anyway, he's the head of blockchain research group at Hamburg University. And he also, I believe he also convenes the smart contracts for ISO TC-307 as well. So he's big into the standards as well. He's, I assume he helped, yeah, there we go. It says it right here, actually. Convener in ISO TC-307 for working group 3 smart contracts. I believe he also helped big with our position in HAW Hamburg. As you might not know, we partnered with HAW Hamburg mainly for our work on treaty contracts, which is multi-chain contracts, smart contracts. Just jumping back here to here. For some reason, my LinkedIn, I'm on a guest Chrome, but for some reason it would let me see some accounts, but not others. So I just thought I would mention him. You got Giles Watkins, another advisor. We just touched on that. And you got Renier. Now, he's actually works for KPMG, I believe. Yes, I think it is. If he does work for KPMG, or he did if you scroll down. But he basically helped Quant with their compliance and regulatory issues as they went through TGE, because, you know, it's an ICO and there's a lot of, I guess there's a lot of headaches you got to go through. Anyway, he also seems to be at HBSC at the moment as well. But basically, what I wanted to do with this video is kind of give you guys an insight into where it all started and what was the reason for it starting. Because a lot of people, as I mentioned at the start, seem to think that it was just another ICO that was looking for something to do and something to raise money, when in reality, Gilbert and the crew have been looking at this vision for years, and they've been trying to push through the standards to make it a reality. And I believe the ICO was a means for them to get a jump start, right? When you jump start your car, you bloody jumper leaves on your battery, and boom, off you go. So what does this mean in the grand scheme of things? The team's just getting started. Right now, they're going through a massive, massive expansion phase. And if you've been following us, they've already landed some big deals with SIA, Axe Trading, Crowds, Alliance Block. They've got 300 organizations looking to develop with them, but they're still a relatively small team. In the near future, these guys are going to be growing, I would say, at a rapid pace. Probably going to double the team. I mean, I'm absolutely excited to see what happens on a front end, a back end, a marketing, communication, sales, just everything. I'm extremely excited to see where these guys go when they get the full force of a full team under their wing. Anyway, guys, appreciate you. Almost forgot. I wanted to talk about price, because as always, we are ending or nearing the end of our bear cycle, and everyone is freaking the shit out. Not really, just the people who haven't been through one before, right? And I understand, look, it looks ugly. I mean, this is CMC, the data's not great, right? But it also looked ugly back here. It also looked ugly back here. It also looked ugly back here, back here, back here. And even if you bought here, you're still incredibly up. And that was the top of our last bull cycle. So what I wanted to highlight is market cycles and how it works emotionally, right? Up here, as we go up here, Quant's the bee's knees. There's nothing that can stop us. We're going straight to $100, new paradigm. Down here, you get a little bit of, someone says like a little bit of doubt or a little bit of FUD or a little bit of uncertainty, and everyone's like cutthroat. They're all jumping at each other's throats. They're all trying to climb over their way. They're all trying. I think what I find the funniest is towards the end of the cycle, especially these last few candles, everyone thinks they're now a pro trader, and what they try to do is they try to jump over literally everybody else out the door to try and get in cheaper, right? They think, oh, well, it's just going down and down and down. I'm going to sell and I'm just going to buy back cheaper, and that's what people said here. And that's what people said here. That's what people said here. And that's what people said here. It's always the last final flush. That's why they call it capitulation. People just think, oh, this shit's never coming back. I may as well just buy in cheaper or just forget it, right? It's a sure way to get wrecked. I'm just going to say it. I guess I should disclose, no financial advice, but I guess what I'm trying to say is during these cycles, especially on low liquidity, people try and push narratives, particularly because they've sold, right? If you sell, you want to buy back in cheaper, you're going to push the narrative that suits your interest. And for most people at the moment, they've sold and they want to spread FUD. And it's just the way it is. But sentiment, as you've seen back here with SIA, it changes in an instant, guys. And so all I'm trying to say is be vigilant, and try and track the macro picture if you can. I know that's hard to grasp, but until this happens, coinmarketcap.com, until you see us in this range, you've got nothing to worry about, right? Anyway, that's it for me today. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys maybe learned something. Maybe just enjoyed watching, learning a little bit more about Quant's, where they came from, what they're up to back then. I've had a few people reach out to me with suggestions for the channel. Thank you. I just wanted to make it clear that this video is very casual. Of course, all opinions and content is my own. Yes, it's speculation in some cases, but it's not meant to be professional. I'm not trying to be a pro YouTuber or anything like that. If you see me pulling up websites or going on a rant or talking about something, that's what I want this to be about. I want this to be a easy toned, casual discussion where, in some cases we may sit down and we'll research new things that come to light live, stuff like that. Anyway, guys, thank you. Please support it. Stay Quamfy and educate people, educate people. Thank you.